Every empire believes it will last. Every empire believes it is different. But over time, the same thing happens. The wealth slowly leaves. The question is not whether this happens. The question is whether you see it before the vault is empty. Welcome to money memory. The past is still running. Amsterdam, 1773. The Keizersgracht, the Emperor's Canal. Henry Hope steps out of the building his grandfather built into one of the most powerful banking houses in Europe. Hope and Company manages the sovereign reserves of Catherine the Great, the Swedish crown, the Portuguese treasury. His ledgers are full. His returns are guaranteed. Henry Hope is among the richest men in the richest city on earth, and he is already gone. Some empires are destroyed by armies. Others decline when their wealth stops building the nation that created it. The mechanism that destroyed it was built over 100 years. Each decision rational, each one lethal. Here is where it was built. 1600s. Amsterdam. The Dutch Republic is the most productive economy on earth. They invented the Vloot, a cargo vessel that moved twice the goods at half the crew of any competing ship. They built the world's first central bank and the world's first stock exchange. The guilder was the global reserve currency, not by military decree, but because everyone wanted Dutch goods. The Dutch East India Company deployed its own navy and its own legal system across 3 continents. Dutch merchants make global trade cheaper. The Golden Age was built on production, on engineering, on hard assets. By the mid-1600s, English and French shipbuilders were closing the gap. Wages in Amsterdam were the highest in Europe. Returns on production were shrinking. The merchant families who built the Republic faced a choice: keep building at lower returns, or find other ways to earn returns on their capital. They chose finance. What started as a rational decision became an irreversible structural shift. And what started as a shift would hollow out an empire. This is the first mechanism: financialization. The moment a productive economy stops generating returns and starts extracting them. When lending to a foreign sovereign yields 8% and running a shipyard yields 4%, the ledger is unambiguous. What the ledger cannot calculate is what disappears when the shipyard goes quiet. By the 1720s, the Amsterdam Beurs bears little resemblance to the exchange of its founding generation. Contracts trade on cargo that has not sailed, grain that has not grown. On paper, wealth has never looked more impressive. But the craftsmen who spent careers mastering Dutch shipbuilding methods have retired without successors. The knowledge left with them, the textile districts are losing ground to English competition they once ignored. The VOC is struggling to crew and supply its operations in Asia. By the mid-1700s, Dutch capital flowed freely into foreign government bonds, into the shares of foreign trading companies, into the direct competitors of their own national interests. Dutch investors held enormous positions in British government securities. They financed the expansion of the very empire that would become their rival. The logic was cold and consistent. Capital has no homeland. This is the second mechanism: elite detachment. When the people who own a nation stop staking their wealth on its future, the nation doesn't know immediately. They are still present. They still hold the same titles. But their exposure has changed. By 1780, the Dutch Republic spent more on servicing its debt than on its military. Naval spending fell sharply over 2 decades. The fleet was not replaced. The soldiers were not trained. The infrastructure was not repaired. But here's the problem. The Dutch Republic did not look broken from the outside. Amsterdam was still magnificent. The canal houses were still full of art. The elite attended their concerts, their balls. The surface glittered. The foundation was gone. This is where the pattern becomes a trap. In December 1780, Britain declares war, the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War. It was supposed to be a test of power. It became a revelation. The Dutch Navy, once the terror of every ocean, was a ghost fleet. Ships unmaintained, Officers undertrained, supplies unfunded. Britain overwhelmed them within months. Then came another revelation: the Bank of Amsterdam. For 170 years, the Bank of Amsterdam had been the most trusted financial institution in the world. In the years that followed the war, the truth emerged. The bank had secretly lent its gold reserves to the Dutch East India Company. The company was already insolvent. When investigators finally opened the full ledgers, the vault confirmed what the insiders had long understood. There was nothing. By 1790, the bank admitted insolvency. By 1795, French troops entered Amsterdam. The Republic ceased to exist. The system had been running on borrowed time, borrowed trust, and borrowed gold. That is when the question stops being historical and starts being personal. And if this sounds familiar, it should. The same rotation, productive capital leaving the domestic economy for higher returns elsewhere, arrives in the United States in the 1980s. Why build factories when you can own real estate? Why invest in production when treasury bonds pay reliably? Manufacturing employment in America peaked in 1979 at 19.5 million workers. By 2024, that number had fallen to under 13 million, while the overall workforce more than doubled. Capital shifts, not to other countries, but to other asset classes: real estate, government bonds, financial instruments. By the end of 2024, U.S. federal debt stands at $36 trillion. The annual cost of servicing that debt, $892 billion, exceeds the full military budget for the first time in modern American history. That number does not stay inside a government spreadsheet. It moves through exchange rates, import costs, and the purchasing power of every salary, every pension payment, every savings balance denominated in the currency that has to service it. Your savings, your purchasing power, your future. Not abstract anymore. So what should you take from this? Financialization is not sophistication. It is the early signal of the exit. When the elite stop investing domestically, the infrastructure follows. When the infrastructure hollows out, the institutions follow. When the institutions fail, the illusion ends in a single war, a single audit, a single revelation. Henry Hope died in London in 1811. Wealthy, comfortable. In the capital, his money helped build into a global power. His banking house outlasted the Republic by decades. The Republic he left behind spent a century finding its footing again. Some empires fall to armies, others decline when their wealth stops building the nation that created it. The Bank of Amsterdam held the world's gold for 170 years. Then it didn't. Money memory. Subscribe, so the past stops surprising you.